Gentlemen, ladies, and anyone in between, I welcome you all, and today I'm going to share with you the simplest, most universally applicable swimbait hacks out on the market that applies to everything ranging from small Keitechs all the way up to larger line throughs, and it works doubly as well on some of the larger boot tail swimbaits, and it also works perfectly on your very expensive jointed glide baits as long as they have like a vinyl, a TPE, or a soft plastic tail. It'll help you breathe new life into your old beat up, worn, and distorted baits, and it'll help you get more lifelike action at slower speeds and in colder water on brand new baits right out of the package. So for you guys that are finding me for the first time, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button and check out some of the videos I've put out in the past. And for you guys out there that have been here before, if you don't mind, do me that solid favor and hit that like button. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. These are Savage Gear line through Gen 2s. And here's I think it's a Gen 3, they're 4D Savage Gear swim baits. I love these baits. What's kind of funny is I have a bunch of them, all different sizes and colors, from the 6s to the 8s all the way up to the 16. And whenever you kind of wear out the clamshell, this hinge just fails. This one's on its way out. Maybe it's got about 10 or 20 more opens and closes before it's done. But when you wear out these clamshells and you're forced to kind of load them up in a storage bin, I use these for my 6 inches. I just kind of put a school of them in there like this. Sometimes I'm a little rough on them, they close and they pinch the tails on them or whatnot. What you could see right here, this one's been kind of bent out of proportion, out of shape. What I end up doing, because a lot of these baits, if the tails aren't true, they'll want to kind of lean, they'll kind of flop over. Same thing with these little, anal fins and the dorsals and that kind of stuff. So what I do is I boil a pot of water. I give it about 30 seconds to a minute to cool down. And I go about it just like this. Just kind of swish the tail back and forth like that. Obviously you don't have to dip your fingers in the water. And then bring it back up like so. Kind of shake the water off to let it cool a little bit. And then go back at it again, like so. And you can see if that tail will stop kicking. It's straightening out beautifully. Now, it'll also work with your jointed glide baits that have that TPE, that vinyl tail. These are Duo Realis Animasus, and same deal. Just kind of swim around, swish around that tail, because they have a factory set. And sometimes they'll just want to go right back to the way they were originally poured and removed from the mold. And when you swish it back and forth, it kind of helps it find center, because it's equally pushing on it one side to another. And there you go. Straight as an arrow. $40 bait. You don't have to use any of the replacement tails. And here's another one. This one's way bent out of shape, you can see. And again. You gotta be careful, you're working around boiling hot water, or almost. And you can see it's starting to straighten out a little bit. We're gonna kind of coax it along like so. Almost straight, almost. And with some of these glide baits, man, are they finicky. Even if you change out the hooks. With these Onimasus, they cast like a banana, so they'll fold up on the cast and just twirl when they cast for crap distance. Nice action, horrible casting unless you turn your brakes up on your reel way, way high to kind of force that nose to point back at you. I find that if there's anything out of whack with these baits, they just don't run very well. So I've done this to these specific baits probably 5 or 6 times a piece already, and I've only used them a few times. But you can see, it's finding its center. And you saw what it looked like a few minutes ago. And you know what? While I have you guys here, I want to show you a little trick that can turn baits like these. These are the live target baits, and this works on Huddlestons and other larger soft plastic swim baits. If you look at the tails, You see how, the one on the left here is kind of floppy. This one's a little less so. And when you look at the smaller one, it's almost rigid. These baits are, for all intents and purposes, pretty useless because you got to move them too fast. To get these tails to even move at all and have any kind of action at all, you really got to get these things moving. But one thing I've found, that through repairing and refurbishing and breathing life into my swim baits, is after they go through this process of being boiled, they'll kind of be a little softer. So after they've reformed their original set, they'll kind of soften up. So in colder water, they'll have the same, I guess, action as what you would get when it's warmer out. And when it's warmer out, you can get the action or the desired action at a lower retrieve speed, which is what we're going to do here. And to do this, you do kind of have to have that water a little bit warmer, so you do have to make sure you're right off of a boil. So if it's been sitting around for a while, like I was doing in the repair portion, it's not going to work as well, especially since these are a little bit thicker and a little bit more dense in terms of the plastic being used compared to those Savage gears that I was straightening back out. So yeah, just go ahead, make sure you're right off of a boil. And you can even keep the flame on. You can see when it's at temperature, you can see how that boot tail almost comes in and touches the body. And you don't want to go too crazy for too long. If you do, you'll start losing your paint. So we're going to go ahead and take this guy here, and you can see much more pliable. We're going to go grab the remaining baits. You can see that's about as much as we can get out of that one. And as it's cooling down, I flipped it over after about 30 seconds. Just to make sure it doesn't form an actual set. So you can see how it's sitting on this little chopping block. I want to make sure it sits straight. And since the tail is wider than the body itself, it's kind of hinging on here. So we're going to kind of go back and forth. And again, this is what it looks like after it's been boiled directly out of the water. And since these have clear tails, you don't have to really worry about the paint getting rubbed off after it gets up to a certain temperature. So we are actually pressing this into the bottom. And as we're going back and forth swishing it, we're kind of, as we press it into the bottom of the pan, it's kind of stretching and moving the plastic more than just swishing it back and forth would do. Because that's what we're also trying to do. Trying to kind of change its structure. We know we're not doing it, but that's the best and easiest way to describe it. And then we got the little guy, almost stiff as a board. So I'll tell you what, as nice looking as these baits are, they've not been very effective for me. A lot of times, the speed in which gets the tail kicking is enough to have them lie on their sides and kind of plane back to the surface. So they haven't been my favorite. But after doing this and experimenting with this and seeing how it actually does affect the construction of these baits, I found that I was able to fish them and actually catch on them, and I could see the change. I've since lost that last bait, unfortunately. But, pike will be pike. You can see it's getting a little bit more flexible. And again, this is at temperature. This is sitting in a pot of boiling water. I'm going to go ahead and crank the heat and get it way up to a rolling boil, because it's just too stiff. This bait, the smallest one of the bunch, has almost no action at all whatsoever. Alright, now this bait's pretty much fully cooled down. I mean, it's just a little bit above room temperature. And you can see it can almost touch itself. That just didn't sound right. When your baits start touching yourself, you know you got problems. This is, again, a little bit warmer, but you can see it is touching itself. And again, it's about 100 degrees right now, this one. This one's right around 80, which is about 10 degrees above ambient. But again, once these fully cool down, you'll see for yourselves after you do this. And you can see there's been no damage done at all whatsoever to the paint. And you can also tell, just by rolling it 360 degrees, that on every axis, it's now more pliable. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and until next time, guys, tight lines, and I'll see you soon. And yeah, this one, it's cooled down a little bit. It's probably about 120 degrees now, but it's actually gotten much more pliable, and it should retain this sort of flexibility, but we're not having much hope with the smallest of the bunch. This one was destined to just be stuck in a box, never to see the light of day after we found out just how this bait was. Take care, guys.